So right now I'm shooting with the Sony FX3 and also the iPhone 17 Pro Max. On the iPhone 17 Pro Max, I'm using the Blackmagic Camera App. So the question now is, which one looks better? Can my iPhone 17 Pro Max compete, replace, or even compare with my FX3 rig when it comes to shooting my talking head videos? Bear in mind, my FX3 setup costs well over £4,000, which is expensive when it comes to creating content. So for a lot of people, that might seem crazy already. Right now, it's on a very light setup. All I have is the body and the camera lens. But if I'm shooting for other things in the real world, there'll be a whole host of other accessories. So make sure to check out my full rig build in the video above. So I have the FX3 paired with the Tamron 28-70. It's an incredible setup, no doubt. Don't get twisted, all the other accessories in the full build are nice, but when I'm shooting talking heads, that's all I really need. A lens, a body, and of course, good audio. So the question is, can the iPhone 17 replace my FX3 build that costs almost 3 times the price? Well, that's exactly what I've been testing over the last few weeks, and I'm going to tell you how I got to this comparison. For me, I think they both look really good, but we're going to dive detail on the comparison later on. But for now, let me show you how I got the best out of the iPhone 17 camera. And in order to that, you're going to need a few different things. First and foremost, you're going to need the Blackmagic Camera App. That's going to unlock the full capabilities of your camera. So shooting in things like open gate, having full exposure controls, it's all done inside the Blackmagic app. And because you're shooting in open gate and Apple log and all these high quality resolutions, you're going to need an external storage device. So I either use my SanDisk SSD, or my alternative is somewhere here, which is my just USB-C to SD card adapter. Plug that directly into my phone and all the video files will then be stored directly on the SD card or on the hard drive, and that actually makes life a lot easier because the files are quite big, so it's probably for the best that they're not on your phone anyway. And then also what's super important is, as you can tell right behind me, is lighting. You're going to need some good practical lighting. Without practical lighting, the log footage just won't look good, so make sure you invest in some good lighting. And then finally, you will need to understand some basic color grading skills, or at least knowing how to apply a LUT or at least transform the colors to get to something like Rec 709. And some editing software I'd recommend is either CapCut or DaVinci. DaVinci, I think, is so much better than CapCut when it comes to color grading. For quick, fast edits, CapCut of course would be king, but if you really want to get into video editing and color grading, DaVinci trumps CapCut by a long shot. Type in how to use DaVinci on YouTube, you will see a whole host of videos explaining how to do everything you need. Heading over to the Blackmagic Camera App, these are a few settings you need to do to get the most out of the camera. Codec, you want to make sure you select Apple ProRes RAW. I find it's best to skip RAW HQ. The files are massive, standard RAW looks identical, and this is way more efficient. Secondly, that square resolution is something called Open Gate, and Open Gate captures the full sensor, giving you way more room to reframe later, so you can go from 16:9, 4:3, 9:16, all for one shot. Next up is the color space. This is Apple Log 2. This gives us the maximum dynamic range and makes your color grading so much easier, and means you can have more control of the final color and look of your video. Media storage has to be files, SSD or SD card. So basically this step is critical because the internal file storage isn't fast enough to handle ProRes RAW files, so you have to use some sort of external storage. And then finally, exposure and white balance. Make sure your shutter speed is double your frame rate, so if you're shooting at 1/50, keep ISO low as possible to avoid any noise, and lock in white balance to prevent any shift. Spend some time playing around with that and find the settings that best work for you. This is the comparison I started at the start. I wonder if you guys are able to guess, but anyway, let me give you the answers. On the left side, we have the iPhone footage, and on the right side, we have the Sony FX3 footage. At first glance, they are surprisingly close. The iPhone footage is definitely holding up way better than what I initially expected. The sharpness is really clean, especially with that Apple Log 2, you're able to process the colors and get a lot more out of the footage, giving you a lot more flexibility in grading. But when we look closer, we see the FX3 just has that extra refinement. The detail and the textures, like for example my hoodie and the skin tones, is just a bit more natural and a lot less processed compared to that iPhone digital look, while the FX3 keeps everything really smooth, like the edges and everything looks a lot smoother. The depth of field is another dev giveaway. The depth of field on the FX3 footage is so much better. The background is in a lot less focus, right? Which makes the iPhone footage look a little bit more flatter because the separation between myself and the background isn't as prominent. In terms of the color, the iPhone grey does look quite close, but the FX3 just blows it out of the park, right? And gives you more room to push things a lot further and make things pop a little bit more. And overall just looks a bit better. And of course, the FX3 is going to dominate in low light because this is actually the FX3 at the base ISO of 800, but I could crack this all the way up to 12,000 plus as the base ISO, and I guarantee it will still look really, really good. Right, and that's the FX3 for you. It's a low light beast. The iPhone just ain't going to get that same sort of control and output as we can see with the FX3. But that is not to say the iPhone looks bad, because for me, either one of these videos could work. If I put the left as a YouTube video or the right as a YouTube video, both of them look really, really good. But it's just when you put a side-by-side comparison, you really get to see how much better the FX3 is compared to something like the iPhone 17. There are a few pros and cons of using my iPhone 17. The biggest pro is that it's coming from an iPhone. So this means that the iPhone is not only portable, practical, and normally easily accessible. If you look at the size comparison between my iPhone and my FX3, it's going to be a big jump. Where is my iPhone? This is my FX3 without any attachments, and this is my iPhone 17 Pro Max. So setting these up, the iPhone is a lot easier and a bit more convenient when it comes to just point and shoot. But just the convenience of an iPhone, it really is unmatched. Again, this level of quality from an iPhone is very impressive. Another pro for the iPhone 17 with the Blackmagic app is the ability to shoot open gate. I know that all my formats are covered from one shot, so open gate is a game changer for people creating talking head videos. However, there are a few cons that come with shooting with an iPhone. Number one, this is probably the biggest con of them all. The file sizes are huge. We're talking 1 minute can be anywhere from 4 to 6 gigabytes. I have a video that is only 4 minutes long, but it is 28 gigabytes. That is massive. By the time you record a YouTube video that might have 30 minutes of footage, you're looking at almost hundreds of gigabytes, which is not efficient when you're recording a lot of footage. And I found that the ProRes RAW footage is lacking that depth of field, so it doesn't look as good as it could compared to a camera. Having that depth of field just adds another layer to make the videos look even more professional and just makes the video look more cinematic, and overall the quality improves where the depth of field looks really, really good. But other than those small little gripes that I have, it really is great. And can the iPhone replace my FX3 or even my expensive cameras when it comes to creating talking head videos? The answer is yes. Yes, it really can. But will it replace it? That's a whole nother question. I think I will probably stick with using my camera footage purely because the depth of field and the level of quality just takes to a whole nother level. But if I'm in a pinch or I don't have my camera available, the iPhone 17 absolutely is a great camera for shooting talking head videos. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe for more videos coming through. I'm gonna definitely play around with the iPhone even more and see what we can get out of it, because I'll be honest with you, this camera really is impressive. We haven't even touched on center stage, and the front facing camera definitely is the best camera I've seen on the iPhone to date. And also, did you know you can shoot log on center stage? So that's another thing to play around with, and I will definitely be doing some testing on that. So let me know in the comments if you think your iPhone can actually replace your camera in the future, or you're actually going to stick with one or the other. But listen, the iPhone cameras are great. They're not quite as good as a proper camera, but they're getting really, really close. They're not quite as far off as they once were. But anyway, let me get back into creating some more content.